His peace has been disturbed. Yeah. It can happen today.
Calling all men. Join us June 21st, 2025 during Men's Mental Health Awareness Month for real conversations, expert insights, and actionable tools to fuel your well-being. Baptist Memorial Healthcare invites you to Heart and Soul, a men's wellness collective, an empowering experience for men who move with intention. With appearances from acclaimed actor Michael J. White and BMF star Da Vinci and actress Elise Neal. This event is free, but space is limited. So register now and share with the other guys you know. Pre-register at baptistonline.org/heart and soul.
Welcome to the Antonio Parkinson Project. Today, we're diving into some. Hold on, man. Hold on. Why does this look like the old? I'm telling you, I'm struggling. Okay, let's do it again. Give me a countdown.
All right, 3, 2, 1. Go ahead.
Welcome to the Antonio Parkinson Project. Today, we are talking about Stephen A. Smith. He put his mouth on Memphis. We're also talking about Roland Martin. Who the hell took his biscuit? Right? And we have the superhero in the building and the super shero in the building is Mr. and Mrs. Michael J. White in the building. So stick around, hit that subscribe button. We will be right back. You're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project. Welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. You're watching the fastest growing visual
podcast in the
market. Let's go, baby.
Come on now.
Come on.
Yeah.
Look, do I need to say that again so Mr. and Mrs. White can I'm just messing with y'all, man. Just give you a hard time. Hey, today we're talking about a lot of things, but more importantly, we have the superhero and his wonderful wife in the building. First of all, before we introduce him, y'all give it up for my lovely co-host and
That's not Angelica. That's not Angelica.
Ina Esco.
Should I introduce myself? Hello, ladies and gentlemen. The double E, Ina Esco in the building. Good to be here again.
I'm happy to have you. Thank you for being here. Of course, our wonderful co-host Angelica. She is having surgery today, so we're keeping her lifted up in our prayers.
Definitely.
That everything's a success, and she'll be back talking crazy to us probably in the next episode.
In no time, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, that's my DJ over there. That's DJ Coach. Y'all give it up for my DJ. DJ
say
Kojak.
That. Say that.
So let me do this. DJ Kojak, do me a favor before we introduce our guests because we got to test them.
Okay.
Him and his wife. I want you to scratch it up 4 times for Mr. and Mrs. Michael J. White.
4 times.
4 times.
Okay, here we go.
Let's go. Man,
put that New York on there for my brother.
You did put that spin on it. Hey, did you hear that scratch?
No, I didn't.
Oh, man. Oh, my God. Oh, my goodness.
Hold on. I had the volume down.
Okay.
Let me turn the volume up a little bit. You know what I'm saying? We'll do it one more time.
Okay. Man, I heard it, man.
Yeah.
That backspin was it, though, right?
Yeah. I heard that.
Michael J. White, did you hear the scratch?
Yeah, I guess that's...
Yeah, he heard that.
That's what I'm talking about.
You call it deaf man.
Superhero. Deaf, like DEF.
Did you hear the scratch? Yeah, okay,
that's what I'm talking
That's
about.
what I'm talking about, right?
Man, that's what I'm talking about.
That's what I'm talking about, man. Because I heard it. He not heard it. Right, all the other guests when we run it when the video drops, the scratch is in there. So I'm not sure what was going on that first time, but thanks for turning the volume up.
I had to turn the volume up, man. I always got to turn that volume up.
Turn that volume up, man. I am incredibly honored and thankful to have you here, have you and your lovely wife here. And you're here for a good reason. Right, because shout out to all the folks at Baptist. Shout out to the good Reverend Dr. Keith Norman.
Come on now.
And we got to send a shout out to Cynthia Allen and the whole team that put the Heart and Soul Men's Wellness event together. And so that's what you're in town for, right?
That's right.
Okay. So we're going to, this thing is going to cover everything from mental health to family planning. I heard that we can get a massage there and you know, and a whole host of other things. I'm looking at the smile on the Baptist representative over there, looking at the smile on her face as we send them shouts out. We're gonna say Baptist 11 times today. Baptist Memorial Healthcare, and the health and care is separate. It's not the same. Look at that. Look at that smile. That's what I'm talking about. That's how you do your sponsors, right? You gotta take care of your sponsors, right? Yeah. And so you know, you're here for that. It's going to be a lot of good things happening, a lot of excitement, and finally, something for men. Man, we need it, you know, because we carry a load on our shoulders. We really do. We truly do. Kojak said he's been carrying a load on his shoulders even before he became a man. So
we right off Father's Day, and I just received a card. That's all I got. So I'm looking forward.
What did you expect for Father's Day?
A little bit more recognition, you know,
appreciation.
Just today, I had to change tires, do a lot of stuff. You know what I'm saying? But you know,
did you communicate that?
What I want?
You expected more.
No.
Maybe you should communicate.
You know what? I might.
Here we go.
Yeah, it ain't gonna work.
Here we go. So, brother White, what you get for Father's Day?
Well, I got my family.
Okay.
Thank you. Exactly.
Well, I thought I was the political person here. I thought that was a great answer. Yeah.
But let me say, we were traveling. We were in Miami on a new project, so we weren't even with family.
Okay. But yeah, you got that.
But they know I don't want nothing.
That's how I am too.
I'm different. I'm a little bit worse than most people because you know I get embarrassed by compliments and gifts.
Oh, do you?
So you know I try to push that away from me.
So obviously gifts ain't your love language then.
No, it is not.
What's his love language, sister? I'm putting you on the spot. Oh, that's acts of service.
Touch.
Acts of service.
Acts of service, caring, loving.
Yeah. Just do it without having to ask for it. Right. I feel you on that. And she knows. She knows her man's love language. Right. She said, look how she looking. Yeah.
My husband is touch too. Touch too.
She didn't say touch.
I'm on the same page with her. I heard what you said. Yes. Right. What did you get for Father's Day?
Oh, that's you know what? I was out of town. I hadn't gotten anything yet, but my girls were going to come over and cook, and so you know I'm simple, right? I ain't got to have nothing. You know, I'm just show up, just show up. You know, so I don't have to. I'm like well, I'm not like Kojak. Kojak wants to be pampered and stuff on Father's Day.
I do. I ain't gonna lie.
That's okay. You know. Everybody, you know, to each their own, you know. So, you know, hey, let me ask you this though. You know, and we're gonna run you got the Project Trouble Man too, right?
Yeah.
Before we get into that, and we're gonna run that video in post because we were struggling today trying to get that video uploaded, but I think it was us. Let me ask you this though. Well, how did everything get started for you?
In what way?
Acting.
Well, I mean, I studied it in college, you know, and so after college, I was teaching school, and then I was continuing with theater in New York and all that type of stuff, and eventually left teaching and then followed the whole acting and writing and directing and all that type of stuff. And here I am.
So you were an educator?
Yeah.
In New York public schools?
In Connecticut at this point.
Connecticut.
I was born in New York, but then I moved to Connecticut, and that's where I started teaching school.
Where at in Connecticut? Hartford?
Bridgeport.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what grades were you teaching? That's interesting because I didn't know that about you.
6th, 7th, and 8th grade.
6th, 7th. Okay, you caught them right in the transition.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Those are actually good grades. I coached football, you know, for that age group around 11 to 13 in that space, right? And those kids and they're right in the transition. Either they're gonna go left or right.
That's an important age right there.
Yeah,
very much like I was. I've been on my own since I was 14.
Oh.
And so I was one of those kids. You know, I was a special ed teacher.
Okay.
And so I taught kids that were very much like myself.
Right.
Yeah.
Did you feel like they all belonged in special ed, or was it
no? It was just a mishmash of people that was set to fail.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
everybody had different issues, but they just kind of, you know, people who had behavioral problems, they just put them all in one group and just expect them to just kind of quit once they become 16 or old enough to log out of school. But it didn't go that way. I actually brought them up to curriculum.
That's awesome, man. Yeah. That's incredible, man. So tell us, how did you end up? I left my mother's house right before I turned 16. I didn't never go back either. So what's your story for being out on your own at 14?
Well, I was a man child. I haven't grown an inch since I was 14. I was this height. And I had a deep voice. And, and so I was a black belt ever since I was 13 years old, fighting grown men in tournaments. And at 15, I was winning heavyweight championships at 15. I was very much, it was kind of crazy that I would wind up playing Mike Tyson, who was somebody who had a very similar upbringing, where, you know, you grow early and you're fighting men and you kind of really screws you up a little bit. Because, you know, you got grown men like looking at you like as a superior, but yeah. So I was doing that, you know, early on. So I kind of was grown quick.
And you but you left the house and you was out there, or
because I couldn't when I was 15. I couldn't convince anybody when I was 15. People thought I was I was like in my 20s. Even if I told somebody I was 15, they're like, you're lying.
Right.
You know, so I went with it. So, you know, you want to act like I'm older.
Right.
You know, I was teaching my own martial arts class in the hood at 15 because they got me in the papers for winning tournaments. So I'm teaching my own class, getting money. I had like something close to 200 students. And a lot of them were older than me. They didn't know.
Wow. Who got you into martial arts? Who got you into martial arts?
Me.
You did?
Really? Me. I got my mother refused to put me in the martial arts because I was fighting so much on the street. I was just a natural fighter. I had a lot of anger issues. But I started going with my friends to their martial art lessons and would learn on the sidelines. And I got so good learning from watching. When they come home, I'm practicing. I knew everything they knew. And I knew what the advanced classes knew because I was watching the advanced classes. Eventually, they came to me on one break and was asking me what the next movements were. The teachers, the teacher asked them, well, why does that kid know? And they're like, he knows everything.
A quick study, too.
And he had me demonstrate it. And from that moment on, he started teaching me for free. He said, you don't have to pay. You come here at you come in anytime you want. And that became my saving grace. And
Change your life.
Yeah. And I eventually became a black belt under that teacher. I didn't have to pay a dime.
That's awesome, man. You feel like you're in your purpose, kicking folks and shit?
No, that's not my purpose. But I'm definitely in my purpose now. Yeah.
You show your wifey and kids some moves. They know how to do some
Absolutely.
moves. Wifey, you know how to defend yourself.
You be kicking folks too?
My wife is.
She know what to do.
She's been the lead in her own martial arts action.
Come on.
Wow. It's the look for me, right? Like how could you even ask me that? Do you not know?
I can tell.
Yeah.
Man, who was your which first of all, which practice in martial arts do you?
I can bore you, but you probably wouldn't know the name. I have black belts in 8 different styles.
Okay. Black belt in 8 different styles. Just run down them styles real quick.
Kyokushin, Shotokan, Taekwondo, Tang Sudo, Goju-Ryu, Kobudo, the Wushu, and there's a U.S. U.S. karate style under Bill Wallace, who we are both trained under.
Right.
Yeah.
That's impressive, man. So did you watch the Chinese movies back in the day, man, where the lips didn't match?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We used to watch them Shaolin Warriors and all, and fly through the air and stuff, man. Was Jim Kelly your childhood? Okay. Y'all, so those of you that don't, you youngins in here, you want to tell them who Jim Kelly was?
He did martial art movies.
Right. He was the only one of us back then. It seemed like it.
But
Mainstream
popular. No, but I was deep into it, so I knew about Ron Van Cleef.
Okay.
Brother Carl. Oh my goodness. He just passed. Like
not Carl
week.
Edwards. Not Carl Winslow. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm sorry. It's Carl Scott.
Okay.
He was doing movies in China a long time ago, but he just passed a little over a week ago.
Yeah. What about the Dolomite movies? He was doing karate.
No, he
back
wasn't.
in the day.
I met him. I patterned one of the characters in Black Dynamite.
I remember that. Yeah.
Because man, look, let me tell you something. One thing we did was we studied those Dolomite movies. Those kids never touched. They clearly production wise, you would see it that his foot never got close.
Oh,
to
yeah.
You might get a microphone drop down from
Rudy Ray Moore.
Rudy Ray Moore.
That's right. Yeah.
Who are some of the people you look up to from an acting standpoint?
Oh, there's so many. Harrison Ford. Man, this is so many. I remember one of my first favorite actors was a guy named William Smith, like almost like Will Smith, but his name was William Smith, and he was a badass, man. He was like one of these tough guy actors. He was in westerns and stuff, but he was like a Navy SEAL, spoke several languages, very intelligent. He's passed on, but he was, I looked up to very strong, powerful, intelligent people. Jim Brown was my big time mentor, and he was like a dad to me.
Oh man!
So people like that, those type of people meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Oh man, that's all.
Speaking of all the roles that you play acting, my question is, what role you went up for and didn't get and felt like you really should have got that role?
I don't register stuff like that.
Okay.
Any role that I don't get is not mine.
Not yours.
My mind completely don't think about that. I think about they messed up. They messed up.
What's your favorite role that you played in?
Probably Outlaw Johnny Black. Yeah, because see, I wrote that. And so it's something about when you write something. It's on you. Like that and Black Dynamite, those are things I wrote. I created out of nothing.
Whoa.
So if you create something out of nothing and people appreciate it, they appreciate you on another level. So if I just do a role like Spawn or whatever, I didn't create that. Somebody would have played it and they would have appreciated them too. But it's something about you creating something and people liking it that means a lot more.
Yeah. But you I mean, of course, you the martial arts and stuff, but you're actually a really good, I was gonna say incredible actor though. On aside of the martial arts talent, and of course there's niche space for that, right? But you're a thespian. You are a true actor. Have you thought about doing or have you done any roles like that were outside of the norm of what we're used to seeing you in?
See, people think I've done more martial arts stuff, but I've done more of the other stuff than anything else. Like even if you look at Tyler Perry's For Better or Worse, I've done 150 episodes of that by itself. So that's a comedy. That's got nothing to do with martial arts. I mean, so the majority of why did I get married? All these other different things, it have nothing to do with martial arts.
Right.
And so, I mean, doing the TV work. I've never done any TV work that had martial arts in it. So I know people tend to pigeonhole you or kind of put you in a position because that's usually somebody belongs on one shelf and they stay there. But that's not been, the stuff that I do. I write, I produce, I direct, and all that type of stuff. So but since so few people do martial arts. You start to get categorized like that. One thing I say is look at Wesley Snipes. Wesley Snipes had done so much more work than when he did martial arts. But then as soon as he started doing martial arts, he gets pigeonholed as Blade.
You're Blade now.
But people forget about White Man Can't Jump and all Money Train and all these other things. Waiting to Exhale and all these amazing movies that this brother did. You know what I mean?
Right.
So. That's just the tendency of people to try to put you in a category.
Yes. And you know what? Hollywood has evolved and changed. And I know you've seen the evolution, right? What would you say is the biggest lesson that you've learned as an actor? Because we're seeing a lot exposed right now, with Hollywood. What's the biggest lesson that you've learned over the years?
About?
Just being an actor in the industry.
Well, I mean, I'm going to seem a little weird to you because I know a lot of people think about the negatives about stuff. I don't. My brain don't even register that because for any negative situation, you got 50 positives.
Right.
I think of it nowadays as people are putting their own stuff together. They're being innovative. It's the best time for creativity than ever.
It is.
We've got so many. I mean, I just came back from the ABFF. My wife and I, and there's so many amazing Black filmmakers.
Yes.
And they've got amazing like stories and everything else.
Yeah.
So I think it's an amazing time. So I just think of everything as being very, very positive.
It is, and it's definitely innovative. Like you said, YouTube is the #1 platform right now. And like you said, creators can create, put it on digital platforms now. They no longer have to take the same trek and journey, right?
Exactly. The gatekeepers, their time is limited.
Very.
So if you got a good idea and you got the gumption to do it, you can create your
yes,
future.
Sir.
And so I look at it as like very, very positive and very empowering.
Yes.
That's why I'm doing a lot of my own stuff now.
I love that.
You?
I
Okay.
love that. Yeah. My boy Six is out of Philly. He just dropped he did a deal directly with AMC Theaters and did to distribute through them, and he got a movie that's coming out next week called Jonesy. He did the same thing. He's doing
And look at Ryan Coogler, the way he set up his deal for Sinners.
Exactly. That wouldn't have been possible before.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to ask this question, and I'm sorry, I'm going to go back to what we were talking about just before Ina asked her question. We talk about typesetting, right? And people being stuck in a space, right? But what is the character that people approach you about most?
It depends on where I am, man.
Yeah.
If I'm in Atlanta, somebody going to yell Marcus. Right? If it's a black female, she's going to call me Marcus. Now, if it's a brother, he's going to call me Bone.
Right. Yeah.
Or if it's, or Spawn. Or or Black Dynamite.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's depending on whatever neighborhood I'm in.
And you respond to all. You respond to all.
I try not to.
Hey, look, y'all don't go anywhere. When we come back, we got more of Michael Jai White and his lovely wife Gillian in the building. So hit that subscribe button. We'll be right back. You're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Effectively communicating your business brand, message, and reach is even more paramount in today's climate. As a leader in marketing and digital engagement, at Tailored Communications, we have experienced great success partnering with all sizes of businesses and nonprofits. Some of Tailored Communications' monthly retainer-based services include social media management, internal and external newsletters, community and staff events, event marketing, PR and general business development. Our goal-oriented approach is detailed, value-based, and with flexibility. The Tailored Communications team features remote professionals working all across the country while operating as though we're in the next room. Let Tailored Communications customize a monthly package for your organization. Let's get in on a call at 319-504-1665 or visit us at www.tailoredcom.com.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. You're watching the fastest growing visual podcast.
Say that.
Market. Let's go, baby. Hold up.
Doing numbers. Be doing numbers, baby.
Let's do that again. Welcome back to the Antonio Parkinson Project. We got our wonderful guests in the building, Mr. and Mrs. Michael Jai White in the building, baby. Let's go. Yeah.
I'm
This brother right here. This brother right here.
myself.
You tried to prime it.
Already
didn't you?
an actor.
You tried to prime it, right? You tried to prime it. Hey, man, we're incredibly appreciative of you being here, man. Thank you, man. Man, and and I'm looking at the folks. There's a lot of folks jumping on the live, checking it out. So, you got a strong base out there. Seriously, strong base. Okay, so let's jump into this real quick, man. Y'all feel free to jump in. How you. Memphis is an interesting place. I'm a transplant to Memphis too. Ina is a transplant to Memphis. I think the only native Memphian is DJ Kojak in here today, right? And so
Born and raised.
Yeah, born and raised. So the thing about Memphis, it's what they call the checking capital of the world, right? Checking. Which means you want to translate. Yeah. Look, I see you over there. Look,
she laughing already.
She knows, right? Okay, explain to our guests what checking is.
Take nothing serious. So if you say something about Memphis, they're going to check you, and when you check someone,
roasting,
roasting,
California, we call it capping. And capping is something else now, but or planting dozens or this, that, and other. And they are rabid with it here in Memphis. So, I mean, Y'all remember when the reporter was out there? I think it was Channel 3. The reporter was out there, and the dude said one of the young brothers came up and said, "Hey man, put me on the news, right?" And dude said, "No, I can't do it right now. We're in the middle of a story." Man, they started roasting him on camera, right? I mean, and it's like a gang roasting, right? So he ain't never seen no shit like this, man. He's like, man, what the
very aggressive energy.
Right. So Roland Martin. Roland, Roland, you my guy. I mess with you. I love Roland. I mess with Roland. I'm
media giant.
I'm on Roland show. I've been on there quite a few times. But Roland Martin made the mistake of. So let me set this up. So Roland Martin was here for Juneteenth, Juneteenth celebration. Shout out to Lisa Franklin. Put on Juneteenth celebration in Memphis, and she had Roland Martin as a keynote speaker. He came in and he had some strong words for elected officials in Memphis. Not me. I'm a state elected official. I'm not a local elected official. And run the video. Let's hear what Roland Martin had to say.
But Memphis, I need y'all to explain to me how in the hell you are 62% of this city and you are in the condition that you are in. I need black leaders, black political leaders. I need business leaders. I need preachers in this city to explain to me, how are you so comfortable in a city that literally practices economic apartheid against black people? I need you to ask the question of the black mayors that were elected before you. How is it that they were complicit in allowing the economic apartheid to continue? There is no way in the world you can have a city that is 62% African American and your contracts don't even reach 25%.
Yeah, all right. So that was Roland Martin. That was him speaking at the Juneteenth luncheon. So, but now that's not the story. So, but that is a story, because it is a bit of an apartheid situation here in Memphis.
There's some truth in that.
Yeah, it's a lot of truth in what he was saying, and but it didn't just start with these people that are in office now. It started many years before they got in office. So, but there's truth to that. There's truth to that. However, Roland Martin went to the airport to leave. And I'm gonna let you read.
He made this Facebook post while at the Memphis International Airport. So here go, Roland. Okay, here's another customer service example. I stop at a restaurant in the Memphis airport to order breakfast to go. I ask the waitress, does 2 biscuits come with the meal? She says yes. First, my order is hella late and I have to race to the gate. The waitress apologizes for the delay. I stop to look in the bag and there's no silverware. When I get on the plane, there's just 1 biscuit. Now ask yourself this. The next time I fly into Memphis, will I remember this experience? This is why customer service matters. If you own a business, this is why customer service matters. If you own a business, you need to be vigilant on training your team to deliver high caliber service that will guarantee repeat customers. I'm going to drop a video when I land to show you great customer service led to a big contract for company.
Yeah,
and that's where he messed up. To me,
that was. Why did you post that? Like, did you have to post that, Roland? And he had such a great time in Memphis for Juneteenth, and then he leaves because he wanted that extra biscuit. Clearly,
he wanted that biscuit. He wanted that damn.
Maybe she did him a favor.
And that's where the fight started. Right. Yeah. So can you imagine
the remarks?
Well,
he got checked.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm gonna say something that's not gonna make me popular.
Say it.
Go right ahead.
Yeah, I guess I will. I might be in the doghouse right with him. But when there's a tendency, when somebody says something or checks you, and they right, first thing folks want to do is find out where they wrong and then make that the narrative.
Make that the narrative, right?
Now, let's not concentrate on the biscuit.
It's hard not to. It's hard not to
concentrate on, like, I would hate for if there's certain significance that he made folks think about and want to answer and want to face, and you get bailed out by a biscuit.
Yeah,
that's all I'm saying. Is that because that's a tendency I've seen, where somebody could say something that's profound that should be said,
right?
But then it's like, yeah, but you cheated on your wife.
Oh yeah,
you know, it becomes something else because there was this thing where we want to, we want to vilify that person with the message. But I just personally would love to not do that and say, you know what, this person said something that we need to face, and make that the narrative instead of looking for that bailout.
Yeah,
That's all I'm saying. I think we all experienced that, where you can make a point,
like a deflection.
Like brothers, we can say all that stuff. You can get in an argument with somebody, then you use the B word, and that becomes the part of
that's the issue, right?
No. Yeah. Oh shoot, I messed up. Right. Well, so all I'm saying is that biscuit thing that could have happened anywhere. That's fast food.
Biscuit though, bro.
It's fast food. I wish he didn't say that, because I would be like, brother, now you giving somebody a reason to reject what you just did. You just did something.
Oh, he armed him.
You put yourself out there.
He really did.
For the love of your people. You did that. don't let them bail you out over a biscuit.
Right.
Let them stew with what you said, because I think that's what you must do nowadays. I love when somebody can say the uncomfortable thing.
Yeah.
I think it's good for us all. So that's where I stand.
And I get that. However, he armed Memphians with a biscuit. And they went in and they were saying, bruh, she was saving you, bruh. She was unbigging your back. She was, they were going in about this business. And here's the other thing.
Let me tell you something. Because we didn't know what this was about.
Right.
All I knew is Roland Martin said something, and then I heard something about a biscuit.
No.
And so I'm like, what are you doing that made people pissed off about a biscuit?
Right.
And so then you just played that.
Right.
Now I just saw that. I'm like, oh,
yeah.
He put himself out there to say, why is this, like, answer for this plea? That and then I found out where the biscuit part came from. And now I'm a little bit heartbroken, because I'm like, oh no.
The whole message that was on the video is missed because of the biscuit.
Yes.
Right. But Roland gave it to him. But let me say this too. A lot of people were saying the issue was that he talked about the missing biscuit, the case of the missing biscuit. He talked about the missing biscuit as if it was indicative of all of Memphis as a city, when it was one restaurant in the airport.
I hear you.
So that's what I'm saying.
But we are now talking about the biscuit still, and not the other things.
You're right.
And not the
You
other
see what I'm saying?
Absolutely right.
That's my point.
Yeah.
We are talking about a biscuit.
Yeah. And I'm gonna be honest with you, now, and this is something I've discussed with our governor and our Department of Labor, is that, man, we have a soft skills issue.
Yes. Come on now.
Tennessee, not just Memphis, but
come on,
across the whole damn state.
Come on now. Yeah.
And customer service and just showing up to work, right? So he didn't lie about that.
Right. I understand the customer service.
What about the black leadership?
Oh, he didn't. Well, I think without putting that part in context, so the black leadership, based on the video we just ran, and us being in an apartheid situation, right? And I've said that many times, right? But you got to put it in context that this is something that has been done for many, many, many years. Not saying it's right, but it's been done for many, many years. It's like turning a mothership, literally. And it is incredibly painfully slow to turn a mothership. And then when you factor in, and I'm not making excuses, I'm just giving you facts. When you factor in, the fact that we're in a deeply Republican state, we're the blue oasis over here in the corner of Memphis and Shelby County, and they outlaw, contracting for minorities and this, that, and
So
it's literally against the law now to have minority contracting in any government space. And so yes, it's easy to say come in and cite, and I'm okay with what you're saying is absolutely true. But when you leave, the people here that are working to make sure to empower Black folks are still stuck with the stuff that they have to work through to empower Black folks, if that makes any sense. So yeah, so that's kind of what we're dealing with. Stephen A. Smith. Okay, Stephen A. Smith.
Leave it.
Stephen A. Smith. Okay, Josh, just run the video and we'll come back and
Could y'all play the sound bite from yesterday, please, of what exactly it was that I said?
Let's just be candid. No one wants to play in Memphis. It's not like you're going to be able to just get through the draft and like, okay, we're going to get another job or we're going to get another. Like, no one wants to be there. And this kid wants to be there because they embraced him. They was doing with him through his tough times.
It's a great sports town, great fans, great people. Yeah. But there's an element there where cats like Jimmy Butler and others don't feel it's the safest environment. I'm talking to the local authorities in Memphis. You got to clean some of that stuff up because it's dissuasive to NBA players.
Do you want to expound on that?
The reason why that's important, I do want to expound upon that. I listen.
Hey,
we're back, Josh. Okay, all right. So again, the generalizations. Memphis has 1.3 million people in the metro. Yeah, 1.3 million. It's the blackest city in America, right? And yes, Memphis has big city challenges, just like every LA. You from LA, right? Right. We remember the LA in the 90s and the 80s, right? We remember what that was like, and how and how things went, and I this one to single out 1.3 million people, right, as if everybody in here is bad, right? Right. He must didn't know Liddell was out here, right, with Heal the Hood and doing all of the good stuff that he's doing, right? And the fact that while it doesn't feel like it to the general public that crime is actually, the numbers are actually not violent crime at that, right? But and when you factor in media, I think I always say less than 1% of the people in the city is involved in violent crime, but yet it's the loudest of the 1.3 million because they have partners in media who broadcast every single thing that they do, instead of the good stuff that Liddell is doing, the good stuff that Baptist is doing, and
it didn't help when Cash Patel said what he said about Memphis.
But that's political, though. Yeah,
it is.
Right. Tell him what he said.
It is. What did he call Memphis? The murder capital of the world.
Right.
World.
Yeah.
And when he named Memphis, that kind of stung. And then you like, well, is that true? Is that true?
No, that's absolutely not true. But that's where
the FBI director says
right.
this.
That's where the political rhetoric comes into play, because you got these midterm elections coming up. And you got Marsha Blackburn and these other folks that want to become congresswomen and governors and so on and so forth. So you got to be able to weed. But everybody, if you're not inside that space, it's kind of hard to sift through through that rhetoric and all of that stuff, right? Let me ask you this, Brother White, Sister White, should platforms like you have be used for causes like that?
Absolutely.
Oh,
are you kidding me?
Okay, man, I didn't finish the sentence. About that one.
Well, that's why I'm here. Yes, man. I mean, Liddell and I, like the first time I came down, and Liddell has a spirit very much like my own. Like, we came in the first year I came, when we were trying to do the Heal the Hood thing. The majority of the kids that were responding were kids from kind of in two-parent households and what have you, and it was kind of like the advertisement went to the safest environments. I was like, no, I ain't here for that. Liddell and I went to the playgrounds, into the hoods, into the basketball courts, in the middle of the hoods, and gathered brothers that was hanging out on corners, the craziest corners, and bringing them in. Okay, that's what we was about. That's how you change stuff, right? So, that's why I'm with him right now. Yeah, and that's why fortunately, but unfortunately, a lot of these kids will listen to somebody that's on TV before they listen to the people that love them. Because what happens is in my platform, they don't see people like me, but I represent them. And one thing that people from the inner city and from the street, very much like myself, they have an acute sense of who somebody is. They can look at you and sum you up, and they know I ain't playing. Yes, sir. And they know I'm from the street. Yes, sir. All right, and they know I'm coming there for a certain reason, and we got messaging because they just don't have very many other things. And to me, that's how you change things. And anything I could do to help Liddell's, his vision, and for the people out there, you want to change stuff? Come on, get shoulder to shoulder. We got to go inside the hood and give them alternate routes to honor. You know what I mean? Because these kids, if they grow up and they only have drug dealers and now with the social media, all this gang violence and all that kind of stuff to look up to, what they gonna do? Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's our fault if we don't present other role models. Yeah. So you can't get them to go out to the the suburbs and find out, oh, that person's an accountant. Oh, this person is an architect. You got accountants and architects got to go to where they are. Right. Meet them where they are. In their nice cars and their nice houses and say, hey, I come from here and you could do the same thing. Yeah. Other than that, how are they gonna know? Yeah. Because this stuff is pervasive. These images, Liddell is fighting a hell of a battle. That I play a superhero, but these are real superheroes. I got to where I am because of superheroes like that. People coming into my environment and giving me another route. Yeah. All right. So I know that that's my calling. That's my purpose. And that's why I'm here. Yeah. And now people can do whatever they want to. You can complain or whatever, but I think the way to change it is to get your butt up and be present for kids who don't have these. It's harder on them than it was for us. We only had a small village. Now they got the world globe right through there. And it's so hard for them to develop who they are with pressure. All this craziness. Yeah, that's like pulling them all these different ways. Yeah. So hey. Yeah. That's why we're here.
And we appreciate you for coming to Memphis to show up because, as we mentioned about the numbers, people coming to Memphis, people talking about Memphis, we're trying to shift that narrative and help our youth because that's where it begins. There's a shift going on, I think. There's a shift going on.
Yeah, if it wasn't for that, I don't know if I'd be here because somebody came into my environment and planted a seed to me.
Who was it?
I don't even know the man's name at this point.
What was the seed that he planted?
But it was he came to my school. There was a guy doing a motivational speaking. He was a lawyer, and he said something about I earned my walk. It was something about him. I knew he came from the street. That was enough to make me kind of look at things a little bit different. And one thing led to another. And from being on my own at 14 to saying, if he did it, I could do it. And here I am. But I think I've been saved for a reason. And the information I have is very unique. I don't know too many actors who got to where I am who come from the beginnings that I am. So I have to do this. In a way, I look at it as my real job. But yeah, so I don't even know. I wish I knew what that man's name was. But I didn't know he was going to be that significant in my life till 2 years later.
Yeah, you never know. Bro. I have inscribed on my wall at the Capitol in my office. It says there's purpose in everything. And I tell people, I've said it many times on the show. Things happen, right? And we've been in this space, is either the survival space or a mental space or whatever, and we don't understand why it's happening at that time, right? But you've been prepared for something in a lot of cases, right? And coming from the same kind of background, out early, you know. Oh shit, I was homeless 3 times, you know, before the age of 17, and so, and you know, now I'm in the state house.
Yeah.
But the point is, and I say that humbly and thankfully, I'm joking, but the point is that, you know, you don't know why this person is walking into your space, right? Or why those journeys joined at that time and that moment. You don't even remember the guy's name.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I do know because of where I came from, I'm the happiest person I know. And I've been that way for a long time because I know what it was like. I know what struggle was really like. And so if I could share that and, you know, help somebody else along, letting them know their best life lies out there. You know what I mean? There's ways that you can go about it, and that learning being streetwise helps you throughout life, like in ways that these kids have no idea. They don't understand the advantage they have in life if they get an education. You know, because if you get a street education and you put that along with a, you know,
academic education,
you can't be stopped.
Look, Mr. White, we need to get you over there at Lemoyne College, the only HBCU here in Memphis. That's my alma mater.
Mine too.
Those
mine
students would love to hear from
let me tell you, but my ministry, my focus is in those kids who need to know that they want to get to college, so who don't even have any idea. So that's
sometimes it's hard keeping them there, though.
Well, you know, that's one thing, but you know, again, I'm gonna focus where the fire is highest.
Yeah,
you know
South Memphis, Knowledge Quest down the street. Knowledge Quest,
Knowledge
Quest.
Because, I mean, I'm telling you,
it's in the middle of South Memphis.
I don't care where I go. I go straight to the hood.
We got a zip code for you.
We got warriors that go straight to the. And by the way, when I talk about Jim Brown, you just mentioned, you know, how bad it was in LA. You know, I was on hand to have that happen. Jim Brown single-handedly stopped the war between the Bloods and the Crips, and I was part of that. He got natural leaders from the Bloods and the Crips. We went to their communities, got the leadership to come to Jim Brown's house, leaders on both sides, to broker the peace. All it is like natural leaders going to lead.
That's right.
Whether something, you know, good or bad. But so you recognize them as the leaders that they are, and give them something positive to lead with. And so that turned everything around. And so I was on hand. I know that that's the way it works. And so I know I risk my life, you know, when I go to these hoods. But that's my purpose. So, you know, I ain't playing. But you know that, you know, so I put my money, my heart, my life where I think it's you know, it's best served.
Now, I know you're not scared in those environments. Have you ever had a situation where you was at a pause?
No.
Not with the Bloods, the Crips.
No.
Never.
I grew up that I ain't scared. So, you know, I know what's at risk, but you know, as a man, there's something you live and die for. You have to have a purpose. If you don't have something that you would die for, you know, I don't know. I ain't gonna say you ain't a man, but there's a.
You can say it.
Let it go. Let it go.
You know, there's something. There's something. I think true manhood is knowing where you stand and what you live or die for, and that's my family, and that's my morals and my values.
You know, and just to piggyback that too. At the end of the day, when you are looking at, in most cases, children, right? These are our kids. They had a big mama just like you. They had, you know, upbringings. We share so much commonality. I refuse to be afraid of my own people. You know, I just absolutely refuse to. And you know, now some of them don't need to be out there. You know, but some of them, the ones that you can't save, I think we need to put our arms around them and fix them. It was the Marine Corps for me. Marine Corps saved my life. Literally saved my life. And so, you know, and you know, but having those individuals to come in and plant seeds and pour into, you know, these kids. I remember speaking at Raleigh High School, never forgets, you know, and I like to go in and give them the uncut version of how government really works, right? Not this I'm just a bill version. Y'all remember that? You too young to remember that. I know you
I'm older than you, bro.
I don't know now. I don't know now. You look, this man look like a fountain of youth over here, right? but you know, the uncut version, and to explain to them how they are, in most cases, the targets of the legislation that's being pushed out there.
They really are.
Right. And so, you know, and when they hear that, they're like, man, no, why has nobody ever told us this? Because they're not going to tell you that. I always say, why would your oppressor educate you to the level of them? They would never ever do that, because they wouldn't be the oppressor anymore. They wouldn't be in charge anymore. And so that's you know, that's where, you know, I think that, you know, we miss as men, and this is something I'm gonna say tomorrow, so you can be prepared for it, is that our job, you know, we got one job as men, black men. We got one job only, and that's to protect the women and children. Everything else falls under that. You know, literacy, you know, physical protection, mental protection, so on and so forth. Everything falls under that umbrella. That's our job. You know, and you know, we may have been missing the mark a time or two, and that's why we're seeing the fruits of that mark being missed.
Well, I mean, there's something to that. That you know, you don't mind me saying.
I don't mind you saying what you want to say.
Well, I mean, you just think about it. You know, not the scapegoat or anything else, but there's generations ago, we were not allowed to be fathers.
That's right.
We were not allowed to be husbands, because if you were, well, you know, in a plantation, if you had a strong man, you couldn't. The overseer couldn't control nothing.
Yeah, that's
right. You had to get the man out of the household.
Speak.
And then after that, they were still doing the same thing.
Right.
So now you got your freedom. So go ahead, be that husband and father. How? When you've never seen it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I know we have this tendency of talking about how bad our fathers were. But when you think about it, what could you expect them to have the skills that they didn't have?
Right,
you know, we come up in the TV generation and self-reflection and everything else that a lot of the older generation did not have. They had no idea. You know, they just know walk it off.
Yeah.
And so yeah. So all I say is our generation, we get to a point where we could blame the father, and that sounds like it's the end of the whole trek. No, you know, I know good and damn well my father didn't have any skills about fatherhood, because he wouldn't have known where to get them from. You know, and so when we say, oh, my father was this and whatever, that's not the end of the story. And that don't scapegoat.
That's not even the beginning of the story.
Exactly, because they had it a whole lot worse than we did.
Yeah. You know, there was this I forgot his name, some doctor on social media. I saw this yesterday, and he said this. He said, when you get to the point to where you understand that you have two parents that came from flawed spaces,
let's call it trauma, which is what it is.
Right, traumatic spaces. That's exactly what it is.
All came from trauma.
And then they got together. This is what he said. I thought it was just incredible. He said, and then they got together thinking that they were going to heal each other's aces or traumas, right? And then those same traumas didn't get healed by those two, and then they got pushed down to their children, right? Who carried the same trauma, right? When you get to the point to where you understand that is the beginning of your healing.
Yeah,
and that's deep.
And then one last thing I want to put out there.
Jump in there.
Okay, now. All right, a lot of people, I was reading this the other day, about 2 days ago, and said, why do black people hate each other? I was like, wow, isn't that interesting? Because there's a lot of folks who feel that we do. Why? Because there's something I feel that there's a part of the story that goes missing that I like to fill in. Okay, I want you to just think back. Okay, why do we down each other? Why do we pull each other down? Well, let's think about that for a second. Do you understand? Just a few generations ago, not even that far away, the old folks would tell you, you ain't no better than nobody here. You ain't nothing but a nigga. You ain't gonna. They said that to the young kids, because the young kids would go, I want to educate myself. I want to learn how to read. I'm gonna look this white man in the eye. And the grown folks that love you said, no, you ain't. You ain't no better than nobody else. You keep your black ass here, whatever. Because that child and children like that wound up hanging from a tree.
Yeah.
They kept them down to keep them alive.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Generations and generations that came out of love. Nope, you stay right here. No, you don't get educated. You don't do. And so that became a trend. That became a culture.
Stay in your place.
Of staying in your place. And as soon as somebody dares to seem like they stepping out, knee-jerk reaction, pull them back down.
Speak.
And they pulled them back down out of love. Now,
Or perceived love.
Yeah.
Right.
But no, it was definite love.
Right.
It was definite love. But the old folks passed away. They don't understand. They're not around to see us progress and go into college and have great lives or whatever. All they know is what they know.
Yeah.
And so what we wind up doing is we do what was shown to us. Because you know good and damn well, people don't do what you tell them. They do what they see.
What they get from them. Right.
Okay. When you see somebody pulling somebody else down, you tend to do that same thing because it's definitely learned. That's a learned behavior. And then so we down each other originally from out of love, but we pull each other down as a culture. But the things have changed. And so this self-deprecating, what you think is hatred was keeping us safe. And then it starts to look like, okay, like when we got our comedy, you so black, you so that it's all self-deprecating. Then our music before it was we had the Supremes, we had the we had the Temptation. Then it became NWA. Because then it's like that whole
bitches
thing.
and hoes.
Yeah, so that perpetuated itself. But unfortunately, the fact is we don't have to do that.
Yeah.
But I think to educate ourselves and understand where that's coming from frees us from thinking that is in our genetic makeup and that's what we know. Just know where it came from.
Yeah.
You're right. We don't hate each other. We love each other. And that's the mixed message. That
full context.
It all came from keeping each other alive. Anybody who saw that movie Emmett Till knows that if that young boy that came from Chicago went down there, he thought, oh, I could whistle at this white woman. But the locals like, no. You know what I mean? So that's basically that same kind of a thing, is keeping each other down to keep each other safe. But those times have passed. And we just need to let that message be known.
It's interesting. Along those lines, people don't realize too. Back in the slavery times, the overseers would go to the mothers and say, "You better get them, before I get them." And the mothers would come and tell them young, strong warriors, "Hey, stop, sit down, stop, bucking up to Mr. whoever and this, that, and other." And it became, and it in some cases, it created passive men. Right? Yeah.
And it don't change. It don't help things when society run by white establishment. There's a certain amount of white supremacy that's behind all these different things that you don't see very many alpha black men or females.
Come on now.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Whereas back in the 70s when we were doing things our own, you had going in there now. You had the Jim Browns, Fred Williamson, Billy Dees and all that kind of stuff, and Pam Greer's and Tamala Dobson's, all that type of stuff. You don't see that nowadays. Okay, so of course that perpetuates itself because believe me, I understand because my route has been interesting with the amount of folks who've tried to topple my trajectory. You know what I'm saying?
Could you see it right off and like?
Wait a minute, hold that question.
Hold
that question. Hold that question. I want to know a little bit more about that. Hey, look, y'all don't go anywhere. We're going to come right back in 30 seconds, right? Because I just want to ask about that. How do you handle those situations? Also, the mental health space that you have to be in to operate in the space that you're in right now. So don't go anywhere. Hit that subscribe button. We'll be right back. You're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Effectively communicating your business brand, message, and reach is even more paramount in today's climate. As a leader in marketing and digital engagement, at Tailored Communications, we have experienced great success partnering with all sizes of businesses and nonprofits. Some of Tailored Communications' monthly retainer-based services include social media management, internal and external newsletters, community and staff events, event marketing, PR and general business development. Our goal-oriented approach is detailed, value-based, and with flexibility. The Tailored Communications team features remote professionals working all across the country while operating as though we're in the next room. Let Tailored Communications customize a monthly package for your organization. Let's get in on a call at 319-504-1665 or visit us at www.tailoredcom.com.
Antonio Parkinson Project. You're watching the fastest growing visual podcast in the Memphis market. Let's go. Man, let's go. Man, listen, I'm sure, look, apparently everybody else is enjoying this too, but man, I am truly enjoying talking to you, man. Because, bro, you got so much depth, man.
Come on now.
Aside of your talent, you know, so much depth. We're talking about the things that are passed on to us, you know, from parents and so on and so forth. There's a book I was reading, and I recommend that everybody get it. You know, I'm big on quantum physics, right? How do you speak something and make it move, make the universe move? And look at, I see you lighting up over there, Gillian. I see it, right? And so there's this book called E², right? E with the number 2 on it. And that book, it said this. It's one of them things where you read a sentence in the book. I don't think I was 3 chapters into the book, and I read this sentence and I put the book down. I said, damn it. She said in that book, she said, we are largely made up of unquestioned beliefs we downloaded from others. Changed my life. Let me say that one more time for the people who need it slower. We are largely made up of unquestioned beliefs we downloaded from others. That means from the parents, grandparents, your homies, pastor, teachers, TV, and all this stuff, right? And you think about it, right? You think about how we eat, the foods we eat, now there's some, I smash some swine from time to time, right? But you think about it, right? I don't eat chitlins. So you think about people that eat chitlins, right? Y'all eat chitlins? Okay. Slide into that, Gillian. Slide into that shot a little bit more, because I need them to see your expressions. I just want them to see. I just want to make sure you hear the shot.
I grew up, my dad ate chitlins all the time. And the whole house was like,
a man be lit, right? Lit. So you think about that, right? And people, of course, those that eat it, shame. But those that their parents ate it, right? The grandparents ate it. The great-grandparents, now we're back into the slavery space, right? In a lot of cases. And that's what was left to the slaves to eat. So they had to make something of it, right? And it was just passed down. And so I never forget when my daughter Kirsten gonna kill me for saying this. She's the stylist to celebrities, by the way. Shameless plug. If you need to go and get it, okay, right. And so anyway, Kirsten, I remember the first time her mom gave her a chitlin, right? And I'm watching my baby. She's 2. She's running around with this little piece of chitlin flopping around in her hand. She's running around the house, right, with a chitlin in her hand. And I'm sitting there looking at this like, right? And then she ate that chitlin, and she's been liking chitlin since then. And I'm like, and so her mom didn't see an issue with chitlins, right? And her grandmother didn't. Her grandmother's the one that made them, right? And apparently, these things are passed down, and we don't know why, because especially in our culture, in our households as Black folks, we were not allowed to ask why in most cases, right? Get your lips slapped off. Don't you ask, just do it, right? And that has been another one of those things that was passed down generationally. You let your kids ask you why?
I do.
Oh, good for you. Good for you.
I do. I listen.
Were you able to ask why in Beaumont?
No.
All right. So, and were you able to ask why growing up?
Yeah, I actually was.
Oh, good for you. Well, you California though,
Yeah, no, but it's true.
We think
It is
different.
true.
We think differently in California, right? Am I lying, Michael? Look,
It is true.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I wasn't disrespectful in the way I asked.
Right.
I wouldn't get my lips smacked up.
Oh, okay,
You know what I mean?
yeah, but and you know, and that's unfortunate. You know, I remember shifting my parenting style. I always tell people, like Kojak says, you know, my oldest daughter got one father, and my Kirsten got another father, same person, just two different fathers, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And I'll never forget, man, when I told Kirsten, I never forget. She had to be about 6. I had read a book, the Army Bailey's book, you know, God rest his soul. And I said, Kirsten, from now on, you can ask me if I tell you something. You can ask me why. Lord, why did I say that? Because why, man? She was whying the shit out of me, right? Right. And it was okay, because here's the thing, parents. You should be able to justify anything that you command or expect your child to do. Agree or disagree? Anybody? Y'all? I feel like I'm doing this interview by myself, but don't worry.
I agree.
Look, no, not you. I'm talking to these two right here. Look, but that's the case. That's, you know, black men and mental health. You know, for a long time there was a stigma, you know, with mental health in the black community. Period. Not just with black men, right? Because this is something that's going to be happening. You know, we're going to be talking about tomorrow at Heart and Soul, Heart and Soul, a men's wellness collective, right? I can nod over there. Presented by Baptist Healthcare. So we're going to be talking about this, you know, and mental health for the black community has been stigmatized for years. But I'm starting to see a thawing out, you know, of people that you know talk about mental health. You know, white folks, cultural differences. White folks used to be, hey, I can't wait, I get to see my therapist today. Black folks would be like, man, you getting a crazy check. Right. And you know, and you know, and you would think about it, right? We all need that mental health support. You know, I wish we'd have had it a long time ago when we was all going through our ACEs, right? You know, maybe things would be different. But what are your thoughts on that? Black men and mental health.
Well, I mean, I think it's a strength to vulnerability is a strength.
Absolutely.
You know,
that's
the thing
to be
that
vulnerable.
people don't understand. You know, you protecting yourself and, you know, that whole machismo, that's not being strong. That's just being guarded. And then you're just basically teaching your children to do the same thing. Again, they do what they see, not what you say.
Right.
You know, so if you go get help, they will get help. And hopefully, a lot of times when my friends have a difficult conundrum to go through, first thing I ask them, I say, okay, imagine your child is in the same situation as you are. What is your advice to your child? Because you will tell your child the right thing to do, even though you might not want to do it yourself. And so that is one of the things, because you know, instinctually, what we're here for is for our children. We want the best for them.
Exactly.
And so, that's the thing. You know, you know the right thing to do if you tell your child to do that same thing. Yeah.
Because
So,
you're listening to yourself while you speak it. That's what I tell my son. I talk to him, and I'm hearing myself, and I hear where I need to tighten up as well. So if I'm speaking it to you, I'm letting you know where you need to be at the same time. I'm looking at same
do you
reflect.
have a therapist?
No, I don't.
You don't.
No, if I needed one, I have no problem going. But I mean, I had an unusual like job that required a lot of self-introspective. And I know a lot of people who are therapists that are friends. And so, and incidentally, I mean, my wife and I studied a lot of socialism, like social, you know, we sociology, a lot of, and just even our reading material is like, it's all about that stuff. So I've been probably studying, you know,
you the therapist.
We both are.
Y'all the
we
therapist.
have been
Our family.
Yeah,
See?
I've been like
I can
that
see
my
that.
whole life. Even when I'm the youngest. I'm the youngest child, but I'm kind of like, you know, I've always been
like the patriarch.
Or the go-to person. You're the go-to person in the family.
It happens like that.
Yeah, because you know, just certain aspects, and then I think with martial arts and everything, it's a very introspective type of thing, and you work from within. And so, you know, working very hard on myself exposed me to things that I needed because I didn't start out that way. I probably had some of the worst issues growing up, like very, very deep trauma that I learned to deal with. It just worked really well for me.
In that introspect, what's one of the biggest things you found out about yourself?
Well, I mean, I guess
that was a game changer for you.
Well, yeah. See, I guess one of the things is I learned that so much is wrapped around fear.
Yes,
so much of my problems and my insecurities and the lies I told was about fear. And then there's a universal truth that I had to face, because you can't duck yourself. And so I learned the root of my anger issues. And, I guess I got to a point where it's like, I don't know. I mean, like, I'm happy our children can claim that they've never seen me like really angry or lose it or whatever. They've never seen us argue.
That's awesome.
And that is awesome.
Right.
In fact,
doesn't mean they don't argue. They just said the kids never seen it.
Oh,
right. We really don't.
That's awesome.
It's not like we try not to.
Right.
Yeah, and in fact, we tried to play a joke on our daughters.
It was a bad joke.
Yeah, it was a bad joke. On one April Fool's Day, we came in the house acting like we were arguing, just to play an April Fool's joke on them. Yeah, and it's like, April Fools, we're not really arguing, and they got traumatized.
How that worked out?
They never seen
wow.
Never seen that before.
Yeah.
And I'm like, y'all are sheltered because I mean, people argue all the time, but they weren't used to it.
But that's a blessing, though.
Yeah.
Man.
That is indeed a blessing.
Not rare. That is. But it's a sign of two emotionally intelligent individuals operating in the same space, and that's important. I was in General Sessions Court for the Ricky Floyd hearing, right? And I was looking at all of these individuals that are coming before this judge, and their lives on the line, right? And every one of them, with the exception of one dude, he was driving on a suspended license. So I don't know why he was in there, but everyone else in there was in there because their emotions were out of control.
Yeah.
And you're talking about giving away part of your life. I tell people, time is actually life, right? Because you're only allotted so much of it here, and you're talking about giving away a portion of your life. Because your emotions were out of control for one moment, for what could have been probably 3 minutes of something or two, right?
Yeah. I always say, anytime you're upset, the first thing you're going to say is a question. Why did this person do that? How did this happen? What's going on? I always say, like, okay, you're in a traffic jam. You're upset because you don't know why the traffic jam is there. Once you get to the front of it and you see there's a car accident, you're not angry anymore, right? Because you find out there's a reason. There's a logical reason. It ain't got nothing to do with a plot against you.
Right.
All right. So you can leave here right, in the next half hour, get into a traffic jam and decide to be angry. That's on you. If you haven't learned that it's not a plot against you, there's a logical reason that you don't know. But you can choose to be angry if you want.
Choosing a perspective.
But that is the case with anything that makes you lose control.
Making a choice.
And if you pull yourself out of it and say, why? You might find a reason. And then there's no reason to be angry. And so that's always worked for me. It's worked for any opposition I have. I'm going to try to prove you right before proving you wrong, because it ain't coming from no ego. And that's one of the things that work with us. We don't have an ego.
Oh man,
no ego.
And so my thing is, I can't wait to be wrong, because then I learn something. You know what I mean? So, as tough men, we don't have to protect that ego. Imagine how much knowledge you're going to have every time you find out you're wrong.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
You're
That's
right
a
about
good
that.
thing.
Yeah. I have a question for the both of you. How do you feel that both of you help each other? I want both of you to answer this with each other's mental health. If you see Michael is going through something, like, how do you probe him? How do you get him at peace? And the same with you for Jillian.
Yeah, it's about checking in. And then if you know somebody well enough, and I feel like we know each other very well. I mean, if I get sick, he feels sick. It's just we have this connection. So I always know when there's something's off, you know, and it's just checking in and making sure he's okay. And, you know, and of course he knows when he checks in with me sometimes as a woman, you know, I'm fine.
Yeah. And they know.
I'm okay.
Yeah, you know that.
Really
Like, leave me alone.
but it's just that moment you just don't want to, it's hard to say it at the moment. So you just need time to release it. That's how I am. And he knows I'm not. So he will check in if I'm like, I'm okay. He knows I'm not.
No, you're not.
He knows I'm not.
You let her breathe for a minute.
And I know better not to say no, you're not either.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Eventually, he knows. I will say, hey, can I tell you how I'm feeling right now? You know, it just takes me a little bit longer to get it out. So I'm, and that's what it is because I'm so emotional about something. I don't want to speak and cry and you know or whatever it is. I just want to be able to talk. So I just need that little time. But we kind of, you know.
I can tell like yeah. But see,
you better be able to tell.
I mean, the woman's superpower is love. That's their superpower. Our superpower is protection, and you know, providing security. And so I know she, as busy as I am, she deals with a lot more than me. She's the hub. You know, for her parents, our kids, everything else. No matter what, no matter what I'm going through, I know it ain't no comparison to what she's dealing with. All that she's juggling. So I know to play my, you know, where I'm supposed to be, to play my position. And my position is checking in to see if she's okay. And I, you know, she can't BS me. I know. You know, I ain't gonna tell her. You know, you ain't good. I change the subject, and I know what to do, and I'll sneak around the back, and you know, and make a joke or whatever. So you know, so it's just knowing and knowing that you know, I got big shoulders. You know. They're there for a reason. I'm supposed to take care of this one. You know, if I take care of this one, we taking care of the whole family. Everything. You know, and that makes me feel like I'm in my purpose. So you know, there's a balance that
I can see that balance.
So,
I can see it.
We talked about you touched on ego and you know and vulnerability, right? You hear a lot of people saying, you know, toxic masculinity.
Yeah, boy.
Yeah. Is that such a thing?
Somebody who not understanding masculinity is going to call everything toxic because they don't understand.
Come on, man. Look, I like the positive. Look.
Come on now. Speak.
So they're going to label everything masculine, you know, toxic, just it's an easier way to reject something. You know, and so of course there is, you know, this brutality and everything, which is not masculinity,
right?
For the first thing. Right. So what you're talking about that's far from masculinity. If you got to try to bully your way around something, that's punk. That is nothing. That's got nothing to do with real masculinity. Right. Real masculinity is silence and wisdom.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's not like, you know, putting yourself before other things, you know. I mean, come on, that's not masculinity. You know, that's some caveman crap that's got nothing to do with it.
Yeah, we got to touch on this real quick before we get you out of here because we know we all got to go. So, okay, there's Diddy, and now Tyler Perry, and today Fat Joe.
Fat Joe.
Right.
That's new. That's new. I just found that out myself.
So Fat Joe was hit with a lawsuit today. Do we have video on that, Josh, or not? We do. Run that video real quick.
Fat Joe just got hit with a $20 million lawsuit that contains some absolutely shocking allegations. His former hype man of 16 years, Terrence Dixon, filed a massive 157-page lawsuit accusing the rapper of some seriously disturbing behavior. The allegations are wild. Dixon claims he was forced into over 4,000 sexual acts just to keep his job. But it gets worse. He's alleging that Fat Joe had sexual relationships with minors, specifically 15 and 16-year-olds. According to the lawsuit, there are 3 Jane Does listed, with one allegedly performing sexual acts in exchange for cash, clothes, and phone bill payments. The lawsuit also claims Fat Joe was so obsessed with one of these minors that he considered leaving his wife. He allegedly flew this girl overseas on tour stops and set her up in a condo just blocks from his family home. There's even supposed recorded conversations where the minor and her 15-year-old cousin talk about how inappropriate the whole situation was. Fat Joe hasn't responded yet, but his lawyer, Joe Tacopina, is representing.
So, you know, there's a lot going on. You know, I'm a person, I'm in the music industry too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I had a group that was signed to, it was after the Rough House split, Rough House Records. Y'all remember them, Lauryn Hill and all of them?
Mm-hmm.
And so we know what the industry is. The industry is the industry is the industry. That's what I tell people.
Mm-hmm.
Now, and I'm not asking you for, you know, any opinions on that stuff, right? What I'm asking you though is this: how do you avoid it, right? How do you operate in this space? You know, and the thing about the entertainment industry, everything is there at your fingertips. I mean, you ain't got to ask for nothing. The same thing in the political space, honestly. You know, these lobbyists will feed you as much alcohol and food and everything you want. You know, and you know, how do you? What's your formula? You want to answer that?
Formula.
Yeah. Right. Oh, okay.
Yeah. For me, hey, I think the music industry is its own kind of maverick thing, because I mean it's like people are kings of their own kind of kingdom. There's no checks and balances like there is in the acting circles. But you know, in people's personal lives, you know, who knows what the truth is or whatever. I just don't know. Right. But myself, I got no, you know, I don't have any. I mean, I put it this way: like if you're corruptible, you will be corrupt. Come on. Because power is going to corrupt. Come on, speak. And so whatever, if you didn't do your work before you got the power and the fame, well, God help you, because there's going to be a lot of enablers that's going to tell you you're right no matter what. So yeah, that's the thing, because you become the king of your own thing, and you know your God is money and whatever, you know. So that's never been my thing. You know, my thing is I don't care how famous you are, how much money you. If you're a piece of garbage, you're a piece of garbage. My heroes were never like celebrities, you know what I mean? Because again, I know if you're not a good person, it's going to come out in the wash, and it's going to come out in your power. Not saying any of these people are doing that. Right. You know? Of course, this is just but it makes it very easy to do that kind of thing. And you see people make missteps very easily because they're unchecked. And we personally don't have sycophants in my life. You sure about that? I'm sure. You ain't got no sycophants? Sycophants, you know. Oh, you're talking about people who praise you all the time. Like not I'm talking, you know, ain't got them kind of fans? Hell no. I don't. I don't even. Man, I'm not even inbox about you. You got. I'm not even comfortable with compliments. There's going to be people who, you know, there's going to be fans, and there's people that's going to tell you, you know, you walk on water. Well, I don't have any of those kind of people around me because that's not healthy.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, somebody's going. If I say the water's green and the sky's purple. Yeah. Because they like you.
Yeah.
So no, that don't do me no good.
Yeah.
That doesn't do anybody any good.
Because actually, people like that annoy us.
Yeah.
I don't like
just want to kiss up to you all the time. It's like,
I hate that.
But you know what? Even like with what he presented, there's also, I think, a wave of people who feel like a lot of Black men are being targeted right now. Are you of that vein as well, or you just don't know?
I don't know. I mean, targeted. I mean, until the verdict's out.
Yeah.
Because I know a lot of them who are guilty. You know, I know a lot of people personally that y'all ain't ever heard about.
Yeah.
Who's like,
I figured that.
Who are garbage and who are trash. That I know personally.
Yeah.
That I would never, you know, I don't care if I'm in an elevator in Istanbul with them. I ain't gonna speak to that. You know what I mean? Go and drop a name, man. No, I'm just kidding. but because they ain't worth it. I ain't gonna. But there are people whose power, you know, got to them, and
Yeah.
I
It's the same thing in politics.
I can't stand people like that because
Yeah.
I always hated a bully.
Yeah.
I always hate people that push their weight around.
The gatekeepers.
I got no compassion for people like that.
I feel the same way.
And so, you know,
let me ask you this because we got to wrap you up.
Mhm.
But listen, what role will you not play? And what roles have you turned down? Because
there's too many. I've turned down more roles than I have done.
Right.
I mean, one thing I borrowed from Denzel Washington, he said something very poignant.
Mhm.
He says a lot of times your career is defined by the roles you don't
Mhm.
take.
Mhm.
There's a lot of roles that are beneath me in my eyes.
Mhm.
And, you know, there's people who recognize my brand and what I'm trying to put out there as a representative of who I am and my people that I would never do. You know, now if I've done those roles, you wouldn't see me the way that you see me now. And that means a lot to me that grown people at a table, grown men come over to say thank you because I have my sons and daughters have somebody I feel that is good to look up to. They say that about both of us. That means a whole lot to me. You know, it means a lot to both of us because there is a, like I said, with the whole manhood and womanhood, there is a line. There's a line of integrity, that I refuse to cross. And I will not, you know, disrespect who I am for nothing.
Love it.
Yes, for no amount of money.
That's the
You know?
bite
Amen.
right there.
That's it
Right
right
there.
there.
Like, yeah, please end this shit. Look, listen. Listen.
Oh my God.
Michael J. White and his lovely wife will be Gillian. I want to call you by your name. Yeah, will be at the Agri Center tomorrow from 8:30 a.m. Well, the event is from 8:30 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so y'all make sure y'all show up because this is going to be I think this is going to be an incredible event that is specifically catering to us men. Finally, somebody looking at.
Our topic is healthy relationships.
Oh yeah,
that's gonna be
okay.
good.
Oh, that's gonna be good. So y'all got a teaser about these healthy relationships.
They need to
right?
hear what you
and
all
I think
have
there's
to
gonna be a little
say.
Q&A in there too, possibly. You know, so so you get to ask, get the uncut version, right?
You got the Q's, we got the A's.
There you go. There you go. Man, y'all give it up for the superstar.
Come on
and
now.
his lovely wife, Michael Jai White and Gillian White. Man, thank you. Hey, listen, y'all are absolutely amazing. Truly appreciate you. Man, it has been incredible for me. You know, just to even had this conversation and dig in deep, into the weeds. So listen, y'all hit that subscribe button. You watching it? Do that again. Y'all hit that subscribe button. You're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project. All right, don't go anywhere. Can I get you to do a drop for us? Hey, this is Michael Jai White. You're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project. Come on, you can do it right there where you're at. Right where you stand. At that mic.
On the mic.
Right.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. There's a camera right here.
There you go.
This is Michael J. White, and you're watching the Antonio Parkinson Project.
Damn, just like that. You're gonna do a plug.
Well, I ended up I was reading it. So
you did a good job. Do a plug for Trouble Man, and we're gonna run the video.
Okay.
After this.
This is Michael J. White representing Trouble Man, my new movie coming out in I'll say it again. I look at it next week. Yeah. This is Michael J. White. Come see my new movie, Trouble Man, in theaters and on streaming August 1st.
You can say it one more time and say, here's a clip.
Yeah. This is Michael J. White. Here's a clip of my new movie, Trouble Man, coming out in theaters and streaming. This is Michael J. White. Here's a clip of my new movie, Trouble Man, coming out on streaming and theaters August 1st.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Can we get a picture real quick?
No.
DeMarcus or Demaris or Gillian, come on. And we'll get you in there too. It's definitely yes.
Yeah.
Come on.
I can't get both phones.